completes the circle check.
Oh, hi. You must be Dave. Hi. I understand you're interested in joining our team. How are you today?
Good.
Dave, we'd be more than happy to have you on the team. But the first thing you've got to realize is that today we're professionals.
Professionals? Well, like a doctor?
Sure. A doctor, as a professional, must concentrate on many areas of medicine. He must be a pharmacist, a surgeon, a counselor, and a healer. A tow operator must also concentrate on many areas. He must be an analyst, a damage expert, a mechanic, engineer.
Come on. A doctor has to do a lot of study, like read books and do a lot of research.
That's right, but so do we. Remember, doctors have only 2 makes and models to work on, where we may have hundreds. Vehicles, like diseases, have become far more complex over the years, so a professional towman needs to gather information on a regular basis to keep abreast of the changing times. Cars today are high-spirited, finely tuned machines, unlike the steel-frame hulks of the 50s and 60s. Why, at one time, we could just about put a hook on the front bumper of a car and tow it away. But today's cars are built lighter. They're more aerodynamic, usually frameless, and contain much more plastic than ever before. It's our responsibility as professionals to be aware of the critical lifting points on these new vehicles.
Well, I just bought one of those new front-wheel drive cars. Are they hard to tow?
Well, Dave, that's a whole new ball game, and one area that requires considerable explanation and understanding. Just one more reason why professionalism is so important in our industry.
Well, I've seen a few tow guys around that don't look very professional to me.
True, but looking like a professional is only the tip of the iceberg. To be a professional, we must walk, talk, and act like a professional. We'll do the little things that other people may refuse to do. And we realize that our day ends, not when our shift ends, but when we're at home. Believe me, Dave, this job is not for clock watchers. Our motto is, when it's too tough for the other guys, it's just right for me. We take pride in being punctual and maintaining an impeccable driving record. And we check the manuals if we're not sure about something.
Let's interrupt Al for a few moments and take a look at a few of the manuals. GM and some of the automobile clubs produce, on an annual basis, a driver's handbook. These graphically illustrate and explain how the manufacturers recommend their cars be hooked up, and they highlight the critical lifting points. These manuals will give us a better understanding of just how critical these lifting points are. Most automobile manufacturers have towing literature concerning their makes and models, which may be obtained by way of a simple phone call to your local car dealer. We also recommend checking the owner's manual, found most often in the vehicle's glove compartment, for additional information.
The towing and recovery industry produces several specialty manuals. This is the education package to own. It's power-packed in the towman's language. The World of Recovery package contains easy-to-read manuals and full-length videos. The manual topics include recovery, tricks of the trade, brakes, wire rope, weights, anchors, employee guidelines, snatch blocks, driving skills, resistance, first aid, hooks, shackles, circle check, chains, slings, appearance, and a hazardous materials initial emergency response guide. Now, let's return to Al as he says,
We try to practice professionalism on a daily basis and search out the 34.
34. Is that like a 69?
Come on over here and I'll show you what I mean by the 34. Take a good look at the numbers that I've got displayed on this board. Starting at number 1, go through them and see if you can detect a pattern. While you're doing that, I'm going to go and check my appearance and double check to make sure that I have everything. Okay, let's see. I've got my Slim Jim, I got my coveralls, my traffic vest, magnetic toe lights, hand wipers, hard hat. Of course, I got my safety glasses. I've got my receipt book and city map, leather gloves, flashlight, fire extinguisher. Okay, I'm all set. How's it going?
I got it. Number 1 is in the top left-hand corner. number 2 in the top right-hand corner, number 3 in the bottom right-hand corner, number 4 in the bottom left-hand corner. You do the same for 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Piece of cake.
Really? Well, keep going.
17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34. Wait a minute. 34 isn't where it's supposed to be.
That's the whole idea, Dave. You see, you assumed 34 was here. You thought it was the same as all the rest. But remember, when you assume, you make an ass out of you and me. Let's try another. Dave, I'd like you to read what you see in the triangles here.
A bird in the hand, a walk in the rain, a drop in the bucket.
Read them once more. Read what you see in the triangles.
A bird in the hand, a walk in the rain, a drop in the bucket. Okay, a bird in the hand, a walk in the rain, a drop in the bucket.
Now you're getting the hang of it. A professional towman, when he comes upon the scene of a mishap, he must always look twice, because what he sees might not necessarily be what he sees. It may look the same, but that extra effort to seek out the 34 may make the difference between success and failure. It's not how you enter the scene of a mishap, but more importantly, how you exit. The amateur towman would probably roll up and say, "Man, I've done this job many times before," and chances are he'll make mistakes. The professional, on the other hand, always looks for that elusive 34.
So do you think I could be a professional towman?
Sure you could, but it's not just equipment. You need attitude, the right attitude to be a professional. Let's say that you arrive at the scene of an accident involving 2 cars. The other emergency vehicles are already on the scene. What would you do?
But that's easy. I'd roll up next to the guy and say, "I'm here. What do you want me to do?"
Well, I don't think you'd be too popular, because in most cases, the motorist involved in the accident doesn't have a clue as to what to do. He's under a lot of stress, and he's fearful of the unknown, and he's often confused. So it's your responsibility to survey the entire situation. Calculate the best method of operation. Explain to those people involved in the accident exactly what it is that you're going to do. Nose. Look what's going to stand between you and success. Remember the 34? Search out the 34. And then execute. You'll notice if you take the first letter, survey, calculate, explain, nose, and execute, that spells scene.
Oh, yeah.
Something else to remember. Police officials, fire department people, and Department of Highways people all have superiors to help them make their decisions. But you're an individual at the scene. Decision-making is yours and yours alone without any help from your peers. So remember, S-C-E-N-E.
Okay. S is for survey, C is for calculate, E is for explain, N is for nose, that's a 34, and E is for execute.
You got it. Okay, let's take a look at the equipment. Tell me, what's the first thing you notice?
Well, looks like you got yourself a new paint job.
That's just a clean truck. Professional towmen don't have to be told to wash their truck. It becomes almost second nature to them. If your truck is clean, your uniform is clean, and your equipment is in top-notch condition, you'll feel better about your job, and it will be reflected in your performance.
Yeah, I can believe that.
You might believe that, but I know that.
I don't understand.
Let me put it to you this way. My father believes that I'm his son. However, my mother knows I'm her son. A professional towman knows his job and understands the owner's position. He never performs in public that which he hasn't practiced in private. We know our equipment and its proper use. In fact, we advise our employers about any defects and assist in correcting them. We know the gradient and resistance factors.
I know all about resistance, especially when it comes to junk food. I can't even pull myself away from the table.
In a way, you're on the right track when it comes to towing. When moving a vehicle, we must be aware of the resistance factors of those vehicles depending upon the type of surface. As a rule of thumb, the vehicle is sitting on asphalt. In order to move that vehicle, we must first overcome 1/4 of that vehicle's weight. If it's sitting on gravel, then we'd be looking at having to overcome 1/3 of the vehicle's weight. And if there was body damage done to the vehicle, we might be looking up to half of the vehicle's weight. A 1986 K car, as an example, weighs about 2,500 pounds. If this vehicle was sitting on, say, gravel, how much weight would you have to move in order to move that vehicle?
Let's see. Gravel is 1/3 the weight?
That's right.
Okay. 825 pounds.
That's right.
Well, what if the car was on a grade?
Well, in gradient factors, if you were to move a vehicle up a 15-degree incline, you must first overcome 1/4 of that vehicle's weight. If you're going to move that same vehicle up a 30-degree incline, then you'd be looking at having to overcome 1/2 the vehicle's weight. If you're going to bring it up a 45-degree angle, then you'd be faced with having to move 3/4 of the vehicle's weight. Of course, if you're going to bring it up a 90-degree incline,
It'd be 100% vehicle weight.
exactly.
So if I had to move that same K car on gravel on a 15-degree incline, I'd be looking at moving around 1,450 pounds?
Absolutely.
I can see why you need the right equipment for the right job.
Let's take a look at the specific equipment that all professionals have on their tow truck. Here we have various tow hitches and your anchor rings. This is your tow sling, your 4x4 spacer block with special spacer blocks for the new vehicles today. These are your controls. The one control handles the up and down action of the boom. This control here handles the in and out of the cable. And these are dollies. The dollies are put on the ground. The vehicle is placed on them so that they're going to be towed to its destination. Of course, we have our wheel wrench. This is the winch, the control that pulls the cable in. Here, we have our storage compartment. In here, you'd find such things as a broom and a shovel, various types of equipment that you'd use on a regular basis in your job.
946 to truck 38, 1051, Main and Walnut.
That's us, Dave. You want to get the door? Right.
Aren't you going to turn those flasher lights?
No, they're only to be used as a roadside warning.
Base 946 to 42. Please come into the office. I have details for your next call.
Will Dave remember the points that Al covered? Will you remember? To assist, let's recap. Since vehicles are becoming more complex, to be a professional, you must gather information on a regular basis and keep pace with the changing times and techniques. Front-wheel drive cars require extra care and knowledge. If at all possible, avoid towing on drive wheels. A professional towman will do the little things that others may refuse to do by checking the 34. As a professional, you realize that your day ends when you arrive at home. You know this is not a clock watcher's job. Remember, on every job, no matter how simple it may seem, search out the elusive 34, and you will be assured of a successful exit. Regardless of the particular circumstances, never assume. Since you're an individual at the site of a mishap, and most often decision-making is yours alone, study and remember. Survey, calculate, explain, nose, execute. Maintain, A clean driving record, uniform and vehicle. Keep your equipment in first-rate condition, and your attitude will be reflected in your performance. Never perform in public that which you haven't already practiced and perfected in private. And finally, as a rule of thumb, to move a vehicle on asphalt, you must first overcome 1/4 of the vehicle weight. On gravel, 1/3 the vehicle weight, and up to 1/2 of the vehicle weight dependent upon damage. To move a freewheeling vehicle up a 15-degree grade, you must first overcome 1/4 of that vehicle's weight. 1/2 the vehicle weight if it's a 30-degree grade. 3/4 the vehicle weight on a 45-degree grade, and 100% on a 90-degree angle.
The Recovery Manual of the World of Recovery discusses in more depth other forms of resistance and calculations.
Morning, Dave.
Al, good morning. How are you today?
That's great. To begin with, today we're going to start with circle check.
The few minutes invested daily in this simple routine will ensure that your vehicle is in proper working condition and all necessary equipment is in its allotted position. Although Al will be working with Dave, this procedure is a one-man job.
Oil level, is that the full mark?
Tire pressure, 50 pounds.
Rad hoses, okay. No visible coolant leaks.
Check.
Battery connections, tight, no corrosion. Coolant level is up.
Check.
Fan belts are tight, no visible frays. Power steering level is full.
Check.
Our washer bottle is full. Check the master cylinder. It's full.
Check. Check.
Engine compartment is clean. There, that looks after the under the hood check. All right, Dave, you get into the cab and start the engine, and we'll check the lights.
Okay, Al.
Your parking lights. Headlights. High beam. Left signal. Right signal. Turn on the rotor lights. Great, they all work.
Check.
Now the windshield is clean. No junk in the dashboard, nothing hanging from the mirror. I'll set the mirror for you, Dave.
Move it in just a little bit. Oops, too far. Out just a bit. That's great. Thanks.
Better check off the convex mirror. Has a crack in it.
Okay.
And I'll check the toolboxes, spacer blocks, air pig. Mark down the air pig. It's low on air.
Check.
J-hooks, T-hooks, Scotch block, 4x4. Checked the tire pressure last night. I'll just kick them. Brake lights. Left signal. Right signal. Turn on the work lights. Okay. The toe sling, it's in good condition. Belts aren't worn. There's no fraying. Broom, shovel, trash container, Scotch block, safety chain, snatch block, small toolbox, cable, visibly in good condition.
Check. Got it. Horn. Good condition.
That's it. Set your mirror. I know you're comfortable, but let me show you the correct way to position your seat, which supports your back and avoids fatigue. Seat back, put your rear right into the crack of the seat, and put your right foot on the clutch. Push the pedal all the way to the floor. You see how that's a stretch? Now, if this was an automatic, you'd place your right foot under the brake pedal. Now, move your seat ahead and push the clutch pedal down again. You'll notice how your foot rests flat on the floor. This is the correct seating position. Now, do up your seat belt. Check the two-way radio. License plate. What's this?
Well, you said that all professionals have their own maps.
No, that's right, but you're not a professional yet.
The basic service call, a common activity for all towmen. Now let's see how Dave and Al handle themselves.
You the young lady that called?
That's me.
How are you?
Fine.
Here's my card.
Thanks.
What seems to be the problem?
I don't know. We just came out of shopping. I just can't seem to get started. I don't know what's wrong with it. Hang on. It's okay. I don't know. I don't know what's wrong.
Make any
with it.
click or noise like that?
No, nothing. I can't even. I don't know. Won't even turn over. Nothing. Hang on.
Do you want to get the keys and we'll have a look at it?
Yeah, okay. Hang on.
Hey there. How are you? Why don't you, here's a balloon for you. Okay? How come you're not in school today? You don't know, eh? You must have come shopping with your mommy. I can't see them. Having trouble finding them?
Yeah. She's got a small purse.
Oh, wait a minute. You got the keys in the ignition. Seems you've locked your car in. Dave, now you can perform what you've been practicing. You want to bring that new lockout tool?
Does this take very long? We gotta go.
It's not going to take too long.
All right.
Seems the lady's locked her keys in the car. You want to pop it open for her? Sure.
Working on it.
There are many lockout tools, such as the Romanco kit. Here's one to add to your collection. Judging by the look on Dave's face, he's embarrassed, having overlooked the 34, as illustrated in Volume 1. Dave had obviously assumed that all 4 doors were locked.
Hey, Dave, this just appears to be a straightforward boost.
Okay, so I gotta be sure the cables don't make contact with any moving parts. I'll secure my hot line to the positive terminal and the negative line to a solid ground on the engine block before giving it power.
Okay.
Ready?
It seems there's a problem, ma'am. The oil light's staying on. We're going to have to tow your car.
What's this gonna cost me?
Where would you like me to tow it?
Back to the dealership. It's brand new.
Is that the one down at Main and Jones?
That's the one. So now what happens?
Well, we could arrange a taxi cab for you.
You wouldn't mind doing that?
Not at all. It's all part of our service. And we'll just bill the charges to the dealer.
It's okay.
Hey Al, just checking the manual. A Volvo rear-wheel drive. Attach T-hooks to tie down slots on chassis behind wheels. Position 4x4 in front of muffler under the welded seams. Position tow bar behind the muffler.
While Al is making the hookup, Dave has taken a few moments and reviewed the recommended procedure of T-hook and 4x4 placement, including a safety wrap at the toe sling.
Now, Dave, we'll put the ignition key to the accessory position, put the transmission in neutral, and we're going to lash the steering wheel. We'll use the seat belt in this case.
Although there are many safe ways to secure the steering wheel, Al has chosen this method today.
This way the car will follow us straight down the road. Okay, Dave, you want to check the clearance on the balance when we lift it up?
Out of habit, Al has released the hood prior to raising the car and has completed all activities inside the car so he does not have to open the car door again. While Al installs the safety chain, Dave is mounting the tow lights. Note the low angle, since the safety chain is secure at the tailboard and not at the wrecker boom.
The Chains Manual of the World of Recovery provides a full analysis of safety chains as well as proper hookup.
This completes the service call. Now let's pay special attention to Al's driving skills and follow his eyes en route. Al utilizes the center lane to allow more reaction time for anything that may happen in or near the curb lane.
You want to bear in mind, Dave, that we're being paid to drive on these streets while Mr. and Mrs. Public are the amateurs. And we must always be aware of their inconsistent driving habits.
Well, what speed should we go down this hill at?
Well, a good rule to remember, or a good rule to follow, is that whatever speed you can ascend a hill under the same circumstances is the speed at which you can safely descend a hill.
Well, that makes sense.
By using your eyes to get the big view, you can see everything related to the total traffic picture. Cyclists, vehicles, pedestrians, signs, and traffic flow. You must anticipate. Make sure others see you. Communicate with other motorists by using your signals well in advance. Size up the whole scene and plan an escape route. Aim high when steering. Your eyes should be leading your vehicle down the road at least 8 to 10 seconds ahead. That means your steering path is several hundred feet ahead while driving at 25 miles an hour. Don't be guilty of low aim steering.
I understand.
I'm also aware of ride-up. This is a condition which usually occurs near the 20-mile-an-hour mark. Sudden braking could allow the vehicle in tow to ride up the sling and be disconnected.
While on the expressway, professional towmen are constantly watching the vehicle in tow and the vehicles around them.
Al, tell me about this 2-second rule.
Well, the 2-second rule simply means I pick a stationary object, like a sign, which the vehicle in front of me has just passed, and I begin to count. 1,001, 1,002, at which point I pass that stationary object, thereby allowing me a safe stopping distance. You know we have very limited braking power while in tow, and I like to maintain breathing room. As long as your wheels are moving, your eyes should be moving. Driving is a full-time job and must be taken seriously.
While Dave unhooks the vehicle, Al prepares the steering wheel notice and writes up the invoice. In the towing industry, the key to success is doing the little things that others may refuse to do. When discharging the vehicle, be sure to secure the car and return it to the condition it was prior to towing. That includes rolling up the windows. The steering wheel notice advises the next person entering the vehicle of any alterations performed by the towman. In this case, Al marks the oil light. It is imperative that when writing the invoice, it is legible and contains all pertinent information.
Here, Dave, let me show you how we write the bill. Fill out the bill completely. Customer name, address, town, state, and of course the zip code. Make sure you include the date. Fill out all required information. The vehicle make, the company purchase order, the unit number if it has one, the work order number of the dealership, the license number of the car, the truck number, and the driver's number. The description of trouble in this case was the oil light was staying on. Respond as per request to Eaton's Mall to boost vehicle. Unlock same. Engine trouble. Vehicle required tow. Prepare unit for tow to Jones and Main. Deliver same and advise service rep. Discharge vehicle, distance traveled 4 miles. In this case, we had arranged a taxi for the customer. Indicate how the bill is to be paid. In this case, it is a charge. Be certain you get a legible signature, and the total should show on the bill.
Now let's watch Dave and Al as they respond to a more difficult call.
On the way back to the car, let's take the dollies with us.
Yeah, all right.
The dispatcher has advised Dave and Al that in this instance, they're faced with a blind alley, no keys, and a front-wheel drive vehicle, which will require the use of dollies.
This is why the circle check is so important. We know the dollies are in good condition. The wheel retainers are next. Left side.
And I'll get the right side.
Okay, you grab the jack, and I'll get the 4x4. Placed securely, jack the car up, and I'll position the dollies. Now, lower the car, and remove the jack. Now we'll pick up the car for tow.
Here's the safety chain.
Thanks, Dave. As I put on the safety chain, you want to get the tow lights?
Sure will.
I have the paper here.
Okay.
This way we're sure not to mark the paint.
The law states that any vehicle or combination of vehicles must have a stop, turn, and tail light at the rear.
Hey, you want to check your side once more?
Looks good, Al.
Broken wheel snatcher sure makes our job a whole lot easier. You can say that again.
Let's make things easier for you by recapping. The circle check to make sure your vehicle is in A1 operating condition and all your equipment is available for any application. Check dollies for loose wheel bearings and all tires at correct pressure according to manufacturer specifications. The right foot on the clutch, flat on the floor, will give you the correct seating position. Check your toe slings and chains for excessive wear or cracks. And professionals always use seat belts. The service call, where the professional towman uses his public relations skills. A piece of nylon banding tape becomes a simple but effective lockout tool. The professional, in an attempt to seek out the 34, saw the oil light and advised the customer accordingly. Boosting high-tech vehicles of today can lead to considerable liabilities through damage to onboard computers, game packages, cellular telephones, and other add-on devices. Refer to all available manuals prior to boosting. Remember when using T-hooks to check that the frame slots are always in good condition. Always remember to safety wrap the toe sling. Never rely on the steering column lock. Place the vehicle in neutral and tie down the steering wheel. All wheels on the tow vehicle must be freewheeling. The safety chain is the secondary hookup. Secure the chain to the tailboard of the tow truck and not the wrecker boom. This notice can save you questions and aggravation. Professional driving skills. While taking in the big view, what is immediately in front of you is history. What is ahead of you is a controllable future. And attention to detail. When writing the invoice, it may take longer, but in the end, the customer will realize how much work you actually did.
In this volume, the information we talked about will be found in text form in various manuals of the world of recovery.
I don't have to tell you what a tower's job is. You have to be some kind of an engineer. You have to know how to figure out a problem. There are basically two types of winching layups, simple and compound. Let's listen to Lloyd as he quizzes Ken about simple layups.
Their winch, or anchor, or snatch blocks. What percentage of the load are these lines supporting?
Let's see. There are 4 lines to the load.
Lines to the load. That's the golden rule of winching. Therefore, the load is divided equally among the 4 lines. 25% on each line, or a quarter of the load. A second example. Here's your winch, your snatch blocks, and your anchor. Look closely now and remember the golden rule.
Half the load on each line.
Lines to the load. The catch here is that this is simply a deflector. The load is shared by two lines, 50-50. Now let's try something a little more challenging. This is your twin line Challenger with 150 feet of cable on each drum. The load is 9 tons and it is 125 feet away.
Could I attach a line from each of my winches to the load?
Well, it could work, but not very effective.
What you want to do instead is to use one of the winch lines as an anchor line. Your second line is run through a snatch block, back to the anchor line, and you use the one line as your power source.
Okay, I see. Then by engaging the power line source, we ensure an even load on the wrecker platform.
Right.
This layup obtains the required distance with the constant effort of a two-part line. Now let's watch Lloyd and Ken as they convert theory into practical application.
Okay, go.
I'll check with the police. You look the situation over.
Wow, I hope nobody got hurt.
What do you think, Ken?
Well, there's little damage. I think we can save it.
Well, it's our job to see it's not damaged anymore.
Would you know how to do this job?
Operating an overturned vehicle looks like a simple job to the untrained eye. One's first inclination might be to simply hook up and pull it over. In fact, that can't be done. Were it attempted, the overturned vehicle would slide with the pull, and the pavement would act as a giant grinding stone.
A controlled roll can be a beautiful recovery when an operator utilizes his equipment and his skills.
The first step is to line up the chassis with the casualty. Then, taking a rollover chain, the operator hooks up to the most solid parts of the frame, these being the front and back axle points. The chain is then hooked to the winch cable, and the stiff leg is positioned.
Positioning the I-500 correctly will see the casualty land exactly in the wheel grid.
The winch is engaged. The compression load on the stiff leg will force the casualty to turn on its axis. Once the casualty is on its side, the stiff leg will fall out, and the roll will continue.
Well, you learned from experience. I think you did.
Thanks, Dad.
You can have the best truck on the block, but if no one knows you're there, they'll call someone else. If you're going to grow, you'll have to act like a pro. And being a professional out in the field doesn't just mean having the best tow truck or being the best operator. You have to be a good self-promoter. You have to tell people you're in business and then keep on reminding them. Little things like these can make a big difference in your profits.
Towing coupons printed with your company name, address, and telephone number. These coupons are pre-sold to dealerships in minimum lots of 15. With one invoice, one purchase order, and one receipt, pre-sold coupons cut down on paperwork for both you and your client. To make it appealing, the dealership is giving a reduced rate on a tow, a boost, or the use of dollies. And in return, you guarantee yourself business.
Probably the best thing about pre-selling
Is that if they're already bought from you, they won't spend their money with someone else.
digital watches such as this can serve the same purpose. Purchased in lots of 100 for less than $1 can be the best investment you'll ever make.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's to remind you of the time you used our service.
Chains and the facts about chain. Chain will virtually last forever if properly cared for. There are basically 3 types of chain that we deal with. 1 is our 3B chain. 2, our high-test chain. 3, our alloy chain. These 3 particular types of chain can be most commonly found within the towing industry. An example, a 5/8 proof coil chain, sometimes called 3B chain, 10 feet in length, will weigh approximately 44 pounds. A high-test chain, 10 feet in length, will weigh approximately 28 pounds. An alloy chain, 10 feet of length, will weigh approximately 14 pounds. All of the same strength, approximately 7,000 pounds. Chains from high test on up through to alloy have all been heat treated. Let me explain the heat treating process. The heat treating process takes place from high test chain on up to and including our alloy chain. The length of this chain is subjected to 1600 degrees Fahrenheit, which will cause the molecules of the steel to actually flow together and form one solid link of steel. And triple B chain is simply a butt weld. Chain rating. Triple B, high test, and alloy chain are all rated in 3 categories: minimum ultimate load, proof tested, and safe working load. A chain that has a minimum ultimate load of 10,000 pounds is proof tested at 5,000 pounds and a safe working load of 2,500 pounds. An important fact to remember: when we use a alloy chain, then we must use an alloy hook. If we're using a high-test chain, we should use high-test hooks, and subsequently with your proof coil. A proof coil chain, I do not recommend it for our industry. It is fine for a fence on your front yard as a divider. It's fine to tie the dog up with, but not in our industry. On the topic of hooks, there are some things we should be aware of. This is called the point of the hook. This is the throat of the hook, the bowl, and the eye. Probably the most important factor to remember about your hooks: if a hook fails, it will go in the direction of the back of the hook. If this hook fails in this position, it will go in this direction. If it fails in this position, it will go into the air. To connect the hook to a chain, the proper way is to have the head of the pin is on the throat side of the hook, thereby leaving the cotter pin away from the wear area and reducing your chances of losing this pin entirely. When using chain, if we use a chain in a choke fashion, we will reduce the strength of the chain by approximately 40%. When the wrenching procedure takes place, it is most important to use the chain in a complete circle, thereby getting the most strength from the chain. Do not use the chain in this position where we have 2 loops, one at each end, one on the casualty and one at our source of power. The strongest system is one continuous loop. There's 2 reasons for chain failure. One is when we shock load a chain. Secondly is when we submit a chain to a sharp corner. In this particular case, what should be done is cribbing applied around the chain. Caring for your chain. If the chain has a neck in it, file that neck off smooth. Therefore, you're reducing your chances of making that cut any deeper and weakening your chain. Should the need arise to join 2 pieces of chain, the hammerlock, or sometimes called link alloy, is probably the strongest
and most efficient way to join two pieces of chain together. These hammer locks are made of alloy steel. J-hooks are to be used for the sole purpose hooking up to a car. They are not to be used in a winching process. J-hooks will straighten out under 7,500 pounds of pressure. T-hooks are also to be used in the hookup procedure, not in the winching procedure. These T-hooks will actually open the slots in the frame similar to a can opener. Select your preference, trust your decision, and know your chain's limitations.
Okay, Dave, let's see what this rig can do.
Sure thing, Donnie.
While the operator stands leisurely by, the press of a button sets the stinger unfolding. Another button activates the stinger's extension, accommodating itself to meet your exact requirements.
Probably the most appreciated of the Stinger's abilities is to raise and lower hydraulically, and through its tilt capability to meet the needs of almost any situation you'll encounter.
Let's place these forks and we'll see this thing in action.
The forks are secured into the fork retainers.
You ready to show me your front end pickup, Dave?
I sure am, Donnie. Oh, by the way, do you have the time?
Yeah, I sure do. It's precisely 11:29.
The stinger rises for its grasp once the forks are in position. This casualty has 24.5-inch tires on its front axles, therefore allowing the stinger sufficient clearance. In the event of 20-inch or 22.5-inch tires, the tires would have to be raised with blocks to permit the stinger entrance. This, however, is a straightforward positioning.
Mission accomplished?
Yeah. Got the time?
Yeah, it's almost 11:40. Oh, now I know what you were up to.
There is little chance of damage to the vehicle's underside.
I'm dealing with any number of things. Flimsy bumpers, cosmetic front ends, and the new aerodynamics with their plastics, and airfoil, and mixers with front-mounted pumps. Just suppose this pickup with a conventional tow bar. Think about the precautions you'd have to take. Removing the bumpers, the airfoil, preparing this unit for tow. Think of the time investment. Look at this, Dave. There must be 40, 50 trucks parked here. And look at the front end. How many of those would you like to tackle with a conventional tow bar?
I wouldn't even chance it, Donnie. Not even one.
Where would you see yourself using the old tow bar?
Probably on something like that.
Well, granted, she can do a lot of fancy motions with that Stinger, Dave. But what can you tell me about lift capacities, safe towing capacity?
Well, I can tell you easily enough, but I can see I'm going to have to prove it.
Well, let's get out our calculator. We know that tow and lift capacities depend upon your chassis selection. Here, we're looking at a 14,000-pound front axle.
With a wheelbase of 270 inches.
All right, we'll take half of that front axle weight times 270 inches, which equals 1,890,000 inch-pounds. Divide that by the overhang, which is
114 inches.
Now we've got a safe towing capacity of 16,570.
And a maximum lift capacity of 90,000 pounds.
Those are impressive figures, Dave. But as you know, having a capable machine is only half the story. The other half is its operator.
Before operating a hydraulic boom, such as the Challenger's, it is strongly recommended that one study leverage. An extendable boom, as opposed to a mechanical wrecker, permits you to work with greater heights.
Which means you're working with angles and leverages that you may not be used to.
It is important that prior to lifting, the load be as level as possible. In cases of uneven terrain, the Challenger's rear jack legs can extend and operate independently to ensure stability. As well, three-positional spades accommodate themselves to various situations. In this position, they offer a flat surface for use on asphalt. With the removal of the pins on their sides, the spades can move into their second position. The spade position is most valuable during heavy winching, and the vertical position enables you to wedge straight into the ground, ensuring greater stability in recovery work. The load is initially raised from the ground using one cable. Do not attempt to balance a load or alter its angle while the load is suspended. Doing so may cause the load to swing if suspended with two cables.
You don't have to look for accidents in this business, particularly in boom work. Taking simple precautions can prevent one from happening to you. When doing recovery work, it is strongly recommended that you have another man with you, someone who is familiar with your equipment. Most importantly, never, I say never, move with a suspended load on your boom.
One last safety check.
Unlike this lifter, an operator with a hydraulic unit has no direct contact with the weight he's lifting. This lifter can actually feel the weight he's lifting, and so is sensitive to its balance. He takes no more than he can handle, and he proceeds with caution. It's not unusual for a hydraulic unit's operator to handle weights greater than 10 tons.
Do you know how much 10 tons is? How much it really weighs?
10 tons equals 4 of these. Here is more than 10 tons being safely controlled with the Challenger Transformer 1.
When we're dealing with these kinds of weights, the greatest feature a unit can have is its operator, specifically his attitude. We can tell that this fella, he hasn't worked a manual unit all day. Guys that work manual units, they have trouble walking to their car at the end of the day.
Fatigue, physical and therefore mental, cuts down on a man's performance, impedes his clarity of thought, and directly contributes to his making the wrong decision or his negligence. Dave wants to be sure, in backing up, that he allows himself sufficient distance within which to bring down his stinger.
Errors. They can happen at any one of a multitude of stages in a tower's work. Dave, we got a rear pickup here with airbags.
When picking up a tandem by the rear, ensure first that its maxi pots or airbags are not in the way. If it's airbags, it is necessary to chain up the front axle. This ensures that the airbags will not suffer damage from the axle's weight. If it's a walking beam suspension, and if you are picking up by the walking beam, be sure to chain and secure the front of the walking beam.
If this reminds us of hard work, what can be even more time-consuming is aligning the drive shaft for removals.
Now there's frustration.
With the Challenger, our remote control and the Stinger's ability for lateral movement allows the operator to reach the exact 180-degree turn of the shaft as he watches.
Good work. Now let's see how you'll handle this one.
By using the handheld control, the operator can adjust the stinger and the forks to the smallest degree. Where the spring joins the front axle, our fork is positioned. A preliminary lift ensures the forks are, indeed, where they should be, and that the load is nesting properly in them. To further secure the vehicle, safety chains should be attached in a similar fashion. Prior to releasing the brakes on the vehicle, the Stinger is pulled in with resistance from the casualty.
This assures me that Number one, my forks won't move when I pull away. Number two, that my chains are secure. And number three, gives me peace of mind going down the road.
The brakes are released. The tow legs supplied. And a secondary independent hookup chain is secured from the tailboard of the wrecker to the unit's axle.
In this case, we're not removing the axles. We're going to take out the drive shaft. But in the situation that requires axles to be pulled, it is imperative that all 4 axles are pulled. Once they are pulled, we place a cover over the axle so no dirt will get on the bearings. The small parts from the drive shaft or the axle nuts, they go in a plastic bag and they're placed in to the customer's vehicle. Are you ready to push on?
Not quite, Donnie.
Okay. If you're not as well outfitted as Dave, use what you have on hand. A plastic container, an old rag. That'll prevent any air from getting through the exhaust system and turning that blower backwards. As with any hookup, the operator must be assured that the 2 vehicles are virtually married. But with any marriage, there's always a chance of a divorce, disconnections. Even with a good hookup, disconnections can happen through poor driving habits. Does the driver slow down for railroad crossings, for example? Does he know about the 2-second rule? Is he a tailgater? Will he find himself in a panic stop situation? Professional drivers adjust their driving habits to their own physical and mental state. Operating a frame lift style tow truck is similar to driving a tractor trailer, simply because its hookup or pivot point reacts in a similar fashion. The further back you hook, the less clearance you will require. The critical distance is from the pivot point to the corner of the casualty. If this distance is less than the distance from the pivot point to the back of the wrecker, then your turns will be uncomplicated. In this business, don't overload yourself, and I'm not talking about your chassis.
Else you want to tell our folks before we say goodbye?
Well,